What's going on, football fans? Welcome back to another edition of the L2 Sports NFL Predictions. This time we're going to predict what happens during the 2020 NFL season. Basically how this works, same thing as last year, we take 15 seconds to go over what we think the team will do, and then by the time we get to the playoffs, we take at least 30 seconds to go over what we think will happen in that game, and then of course we go over who we think makes the Super Bowl and who wins it. But anyway, enough talking, let's get straight into it. Last place in the AFC East, I got the New York Jets. They haven't really been a good franchise in a long time, and Adam Gase and Sam Darnold just aren't really going to be the answer, in my opinion. At last place, I also have the New York Jets at 5-11. I just don't think Adam Gase is a very good coach, and that's really bad for Sam Darnold and the Jets. Though I really love the Dolphins' future, I still think they have a lot of work to do entering the 2020 season. Unfortunately, it will not be a playoff year for the Miami Dolphins. It kills me to say that the Dolphins are just sitting here at third place. I like the future, I honest to God do, but I have to be realistic and say it's probably not this year either. As much as I want to say the Buffalo Bills are making the playoffs, simply put, I think there's other AFC teams that are going to beat them out. And then also the Bills, they might have Stephon Diggs, but that offense needs to step up. Coming in at second place is my most hated team of all time, the Buffalo Bills. I think they were a bit of a fluke last year. They had a really easy schedule, and Josh Allen also isn't as good as people are making him out to be. While the Patriots aren't going to be as good without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick is still in charge of this team, and simply, it's not time to doubt him just yet. The Patriots win the division and go to the playoffs. Coming in at number one yet again is the New England Patriots. Now I know, they lost a lot of star talent, including Tom Brady, but as long as they have Bill Belichick, I'm going to pick them to win the division until he proves me wrong. The Bengals are so dead, like we just don't know what they're gonna do anymore, especially with Zach Taylor. Poor Joe Burrow, I don't think he even wanted to play for the Bengals. I do actually believe in Joe Burrow, but man, he just doesn't have a good team to work with. They'll be better, but only by a game. The problem with the Steelers is I feel like they're hyped up every year like they're some elite playoff team, maybe even Super Bowl team. I don't see that. I think the offense needs to step up. Big Ben, by the way, is not getting any younger. Coming in at third place is the Cleveland Browns. Now, I think they've done a lot of things the right way, and they might actually be kind of a sleeper team now that they have an underdog mentality. But they're the Browns, so I can't trust them yet. Yeah, I know. I actually have the Cleveland Browns making the playoffs, but they're going to play with an underdog mentality, so that should motivate them to play better, and people are too quick to give up on Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. I was really sure this was going to be a bounce-back team last year, but they kind of went through a lot of small hiccups. Now that Big Ben is actually coming back healthy, and they have a really good defense, this time I think they make the wild card. Baltimore Ravens had one heck of an offseason, and I do expect them to repeat nearly the same amount of success as they did last year, though I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to win MVP again. Despite the fact that they had a very good 14-2 season, they still lost in the playoffs somehow. Well, now they're coming back, and they might look a little worse record-wise, but I think they're coming back with a vengeance, and they might actually win in the playoffs this time. Coming in last place in the AFC South is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Moving on. At last place, I also have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just kind of a boring team. They don't got anything going for them, really. Let's be real, the Titans definitely overachieved last year, but entering the 2020 season, they're gonna do the Titans thing and go 9-7 and magically make that 7th seed. Yes, I realize I should probably flip the numbers around on this record, but point is, I think the Titans overachieved last year, and I think the Colts could be a sleeper team that no one's looking for, and also the Texans still have some talent. While Bill O'Brien might be far from being a genius, the Texans still do have talent on their roster. They seem to make the playoffs almost every year, and they also still have someone named Deshaun Watson as their quarterback. Now, Phillip Rivers didn't have the best season last year, so I still have a little bit of skepticism. But ultimately, I do trust this organization, and I always think that the Colts are a team that has all the right pieces but doesn't have the quarterback. Maybe they actually have it now. Keep in mind, the Indianapolis Colts were entering last season as a sleeper Super Bowl team before Andrew Luck retired. Well, they were missing a quarterback to become a Super Bowl contender again, and now they picked up that Hall of Famer named Phillip Rivers. I know their offseason was horrible, and DeAndre Hopkins is a loss, but this team does still have a lot of talent, and you have the best quarterback in your division, honestly by a lot, so I think you could definitely still win this division. I said this last year, I'll say it again. The Los Angeles Chargers simply just aren't really to be trusted. They always disappoint, and with a rookie quarterback in Justin Herbert, things are not looking so bright for this team. While this is still a pretty good roster, and not trying to roast them, but they do have experience playing in front of no fans, I just think it comes down to Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor, which, if you can tell by this prediction, I don't have faith. Someone please tell me how the Raiders actually improved over the offseason. They do nothing but be conservative. I feel like this team gets the most unearned hype I've ever seen. They are not that good. They have a pretty cute culture, but that's it. The Broncos always seem to have a little bit of hype entering the season because of their defense, and this year they have a pretty good receiving group, but we still don't really know what to make of Drew Lock, and a pretty bold prediction here, I think John Elway actually gets fired after the season. I am once again calling the Broncos a sleeper team. The pieces really are there, but it just comes down to Drew Lock. Not a whole lot to say for the Kansas City Chiefs. They just came off a Super Bowl season and they still have that really good offense with Patrick Mahomes. Don't know if anyone's going to disagree on this one. Really no reason to discuss it. Just Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl team, that's all you really need to know. If you're a Washington football team fan, I'm sorry, I think the Washington football team will be the worst football team out of all NFL football teams. Not a lot of high expectations for the football. Is that actually their name? Daniel Jones has been okay, but not a whole lot to expect from the Giants in 2020. I still think they're not going to do very good. Dave Gettleman did have his best offseason to date, but it also doesn't really matter because this Giants team still isn't that good. With this Eagles team, it wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs because they still do have talent, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't make the playoffs because the last two seasons, they proved they just are the Philadelphia Eagles, I guess. I'm actually not expecting a playoff team from the Eagles. I just don't think they have very good receivers. I don't even know if I trust Carson Wentz anymore, or Doug Peterson for that matter. I don't really know. There's a lot of questions now. Jerry Jones is working his rear end off to make the Cowboys a Super Bowl team. They have a lot going for them. It all just depends on if supposedly billionaire Dak Prescott can do the job. If things go the way they should go, this Cowboys team might actually be a really good team. But man, Dak Prescott has got to play lights out this year. All the Bears needed to do with their elite defense and okay offense and Matt Nagy as their head coach, all they needed to do was get a quarterback to replace Mitch Trubisky, and they got Nick Foles. I still only have 5 wins for the Detroit Lions. I think they will play a little better than people are expecting, but obviously it's not going to be by a lot. Detroit always is really competitive each game, but they just kind of always come away unfortunate in the very end. And with Matt Patricia as their head coach and Matt Stafford arguably not very healthy for this year, I think Detroit is just not going to be very good. The Bears are another classic representation of what nowadays defensive teams look like. They just don't hold up, and they also have Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback. To be honest, the only thing I really need to say about this Minnesota Vikings team is that with Mike Zimmer, they're still a playoff team. While their championship window might definitely be gone by now, they could still make the playoffs. They got the roster to do it. Even though, in my opinion, this roster is not very good, they still have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, and if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, simply put, Packers make playoffs. Their record this year is going to look a lot closer to what it should have been last year, but it doesn't change the fact that this is still a playoff team, as long as you have Aaron Rodgers under center. The Carolina Panthers they exist in the 2020 NFL season. I mean, they have Christian McCaffrey, and nothing else. Okay, even I'll admit that not having Tom Brady in the playoffs is a bit of a stretch. But can Bruce Arians shake off the rust from retirement and lead this team to the playoffs, especially with barely any practice? I don't know. While it's actually pretty heartwarming to see the players fight for their coach, I think it is going to be kind of same old for this Falcons team as they sit at 7-9 again. You knew I was gonna give the Falcons one more chance, but they know this is a big year because if they don't make playoffs this year, they're gonna rebuild, and they seem like they're ready to go, especially with some new players like Todd Gurley and Dante Fowler. I think there's plenty of reason to actually believe in the Bucs hype this time. Their offense was actually really good with Jameis Winston. Now imagine what it's like with Tom Brady. Oh, I really don't want this team to make the playoffs, but I will not doubt them this year. They have a good roster. But anyway, screw the Saints till I die. I think we sort of know who this Saints team is at this point. It's just a matter of getting it done in the playoffs. I love Sean McVay. I really do. But I think he's gonna need to build a different roster soon because the roster he has now, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think they're gonna win a Super Bowl. I absolutely love the direction of the Cardinals, but God, they're in the hardest division possible, and Vance Joseph. I've always been high on Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, and now that they got DeAndre Hopkins, they could make things interesting. I don't think they're a playoff team this year. They got a lot of work to do, and they have Vance Joseph as defensive coordinator. I'm picking a surprisingly pretty good season for the Rams, actually. I think they have a bit of an underdog mentality, and I just don't see Sean McVay being that guy to give up. It seems like most Super Bowl runner-ups always have some sort of disappointing season after their Super Bowl season, and while I think that kind of happens here for the 49ers, in the end, they still make the playoffs. They'll have a slight Super Bowl hangover, but trust me, this team is good. Kyle Shanahan is a very good offensive mind in the NFL, and I don't see them being a bad football team. As long as the Seattle Seahawks have Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, they are making the playoffs, and because of the 49ers' slight Super Bowl hangover, the Seahawks will take advantage and win the division. Now that they've traded for Jamal Adams, this isn't just a team that can make a cute little wildcard spot, this should be a team with Super Bowl expectations, and as long as you have Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, I think they're capable of doing that. Okay, so now it's time to predict our 2020 NFL playoff predictions, and I know that they did expand the 2020 NFL playoffs, so we don't really know how any of this is going to work, but we did the best we could. This is kind of our best guess on how we think it's going to work, so yeah, here you go. The first wildcard game of the AFC 2020 playoffs will be the 7th seed Tennessee Titans versus the 2nd seed Baltimore Ravens. Doesn't that sound familiar? Titans versus Ravens in the playoffs. Anyway, the Titans usually seem to keep things interesting in the playoffs, but surely the Ravens will win this time, right? I think the Ravens will win this and advance. Up next is the 6th seed Houston Texans versus the 3rd seed Indianapolis Colts. Yes, I predict an AFC South showdown in the 2020 NFL playoffs. The Texans had a good run, but I think the Colts are a much better team, especially with Phillip Rivers, and they also have home field advantage. I'm really high on this Colts team. They advance. And last is the 5th seed Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I know, the Cleveland Browns. And the 4th seed New England Patriots. But the Browns are not going to stand a chance. The Patriots are going to win this game. 4th seed New England Patriots versus the number 1 seed in the AFC, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is usually a pretty good matchup. You never really know who's going to win. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give it to the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they have a better roster, and they should have home field advantage. I don't know if fans are going to be there or not. But either way, the Patriots do have to travel, so the Chiefs will advance to the AFC Championship. In the next round of the 2020 NFL playoffs, we have the 3rd seed Indianapolis Colts versus the 2nd seed Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson just hasn't really proved to me that he's capable of going that far in the playoffs. So I do have a little bit of an upset, though I don't know if it's an upset since the Ravens always lose apparently. But I do have the Colts winning this game, and they go to the AFC Championship. In the AFC Championship, I have the 3rd seed Indianapolis Colts versus the 1st seed Kansas City Chiefs. This will be a wild game. It's two really good offenses with good quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Phillip Rivers. I got an upset. I think Phillip Rivers with a much better run organization than the Los Angeles Chargers, because the Colts are pretty scary when they have a good quarterback. I think the Chiefs are going to lose this game, actually, and the Colts will actually advance to Super Bowl 55. We always love a good divisional matchup on Wild Card Weekend. In this one, it's the Broncos against the Chiefs. The Broncos will put up a good fight. But I also just don't see the reigning Super Bowl champs actually losing and going one and done. So I have the Chiefs winning this game and moving on to the next one. The next one is the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots. Now, I think the Patriots will be kind of a surprise playoff team since no one's really picking them to actually win the division this year. But I also don't think they're going to go that far. I think the Colts win this game and Patriots go one and done for the 2nd year in a row. The last AFC wild card is the 4th seed Texans at home versus the 5th seed wild card Steelers. This was really hard for me to pick because I can totally see a world where Deshaun Watson takes off, but I can also see a world where the Steelers defense takes over. I'm ultimately gonna give it to Deshaun Watson. I think they were making the right moves in the playoffs last year, they just didn't finish. This time I think they'll actually finish. So the number 1 Baltimore Ravens are going to take on the Indianapolis Colts at home, and I think finally, they will actually win a playoff game. They will send the Colts home, and the Ravens will move on to the AFC Championship. Texans at Chiefs. I think everyone's excited for this rematch. I think it will be a little better run by Bill O'Brien. I don't think they're going to have another 24-0 choke. But I also still think the Chiefs are going to win. So it'll be the Chiefs moving on to the AFC Championship game. The AFC Championship matchup, Chiefs at Ravens. Frankly, it's what everyone thought was going to happen last year. So, what will actually happen when these guys play each other in the AFC Championship? It could go either way, man. It really could. But I'm gonna give it to Lamar Jackson. I'm actually gonna pick that the Ravens not only win a playoff game, but advance to the Super Bowl this year. Usually, whenever the Falcons and Seahawks play, it's a pretty good game. Unfortunately, for my Atlanta Falcons, they have to travel all the way from Atlanta to Seattle. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game. Now is the 6th seed Super Bowl runner-up San Francisco 49ers versus the 3rd seed Green Bay Packers. What do the Packers do best when they're in the playoffs? Disappoint. And not only are they going to do that, but they're also playing the 49ers, who are definitely going to want to get revenge from what happened last year. So the 49ers are definitely going to blow up the Packers at Lambeau Field. 5th seed Minnesota Vikings versus the 4th seed Dallas Cowboys, and this is going to be a really good game. I just don't really know who's going to win this one. The Vikings have the better defense, but the Cowboys have the better offense. In the end though, I'm going to give it to the Cowboys because I think that offense is just going to be too good for the Vikings defense, and it is a road game for the Vikings. They're going to have to travel a little ways away from Minnesota. 6th seed San Francisco 49ers versus the 1st seed New Orleans Saints. If you remember from last year's regular season when the 49ers and Saints played, it was a wild game and the 49ers barely got a win. And I think that same result is going to be here. I think the 49ers are going to advance to the NFC Championship and the Saints are going to yet again blow a playoff game. In this game, we have the 4th seed Dallas Cowboys facing the 2nd seed Seattle Seahawks, and this could be a really good game, to be honest with you. Yeah, the Cowboys do have to travel from Dallas to Seattle, but I think they still will find a way to keep this game close. In the end, though, I'm gonna give it to the Seahawks because they might have a better advantage here than the Cowboys do, so they advance to the NFC Championship. In the NFC Championship, I have an NFC West showdown. The 6th seed San Francisco 49ers versus the 2nd seed Seattle Seahawks. Whenever these two play, it's always a wild one. In the end though, I don't think the Seahawks have that Super Bowl roster. So I'm gonna give this win to the 49ers and they advance to another Super Bowl. Wildcard weekend is Rams at Seahawks. Even I didn't think I was going to pick that. Now, this is one of my favorite matchups in the league because this is always like some surprising upset by the Rams. They will be close, but I think the Seahawks will still edge it out. 49ers at the Packers. Now, the 49ers might still be going through a small Super Bowl hangover at this point, but the Packers cannot beat this team straight up, and I just don't think it'll happen here either. Alright, Bucks at the Cowboys. I think this will be a really good game that I'd be so excited to watch. In my gut, in my heart, in my gut, whatever, I really feel like the Cowboys are going to make a deep playoff run for some reason. I'm still gonna pick the Bucks just because I maybe my gut's just being stupid, but I'm just saying if the Cowboys do make the NFC Championship, don't be surprised. Saints versus 49ers. This is always a really good game that everyone's excited to see. Now, time will tell if there's actually gonna be a big home field advantage for the Saints as far as the coronavirus goes, I mean, but they do have a bye week to actually prepare themselves a little better, and I think they will use it to their advantage. So the Saints will advance to the NFC Championship. Seahawks versus the Bucks. This one's a pretty tough one to call because I kind of just don't really know. But I think I will give it to the Seahawks. That's a little hard to call. It's Russell Wilson versus Tom Brady. Anything could happen. But I'll give it to the Seahawks at CenturyLink Field for this one. So the NFC Championship is the Saints versus the Seahawks. Two teams that really should probably be here like every season, but who do I think is actually going to win and play the Ravens in the Super Bowl? Oh, you're gonna kill me, but I'll give the Saints one more chance. They're at home, that's a long flight. Come on, they've gotta do it this time, right? Super Bowl 55 will be the Indianapolis Colts versus the San Francisco 49ers. It's not often you see a 6 seed make the Super Bowl, but the 49ers are looking to get revenge after what happened last year. But instead of facing the Chiefs, they're going to face the Philip Rivers-led Colts. Kyle Shanahan always has bad luck in the Super Bowl. Philip Rivers will get what he deserves, and the Colts will win the Super Bowl in 2020. Super Bowl 55, for me, is going to be the Baltimore Ravens and the New Orleans Saints. Two teams that seem to have a lot of playoff struggles, but I got them winning up to this point, so who's going to win the big game? Drew Brees didn't come back for nothing, but Lamar Jackson also doesn't only want to win an MVP, he wants to win a Super Bowl. So, who's going to win? I think the Ravens are a very well-run organization. They know how to use Lamar Jackson, and I think it'll be good enough to win Super Bowl 55. But that's just what we think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please subscribe, like this video, subscribe to all the channels in the description that are in the description below. We'll catch you for the next video.